Hey there, Carl Newman here at Sport Fishing Buddy, and in today's video I'm going to show you the most important parts of a spinning reel. Before we start, as usual, remember to subscribe and to smash that like button and leave a question or a comment below the video. We answer within 24 hours. So let's dive right in. If you're watching this video, chances are that you're new to fishing and you want to understand the parts of a spinning reel so that you know how they work and how you can use them. Or you want to understand the different parts so you know what features to look for when you're buying a new spinning reel. So let's start with this part here, which is the foot of the reel. Now, the foot of the reel attaches to the rod. So it slides into a reel holder on the rod, which you can then tighten by locking down a screw, and then you can hold the rod in your right hand. So I'm a right-handed person, and I hold the rod in my right hand at the same time I hold the foot of the reel. That gives me a lot of control when I'm casting. I use my right hand to cast. If you're left-handed, you may want to do it the opposite way. Now, the foot attaches to the rod, and that's how I hold the reel together with the rod at the same time, which gives me maximum amount of control. Then I use my left hand to turn the handle. Now, this is a spinning reel, and in the case of a spinning reel, when you turn the handle, that results in the rotation of this part here, which is called the bail arm. So when you rotate the handle, the bail arm rotates around the spool. So we've got the handle, we've got the bail arm, and we've got the spool. They all work together to wrap line onto the spool. When I rotate the handle, the bail arm rotates around the spool, and that's how it wraps line onto the spool. And that's how you retrieve line. After you've cast line, then you use rotation of the handle to retrieve that line by wrapping it onto the spool. So during line retrieval, the spool doesn't move. It doesn't rotate. So this is different from between a spinning reel to a bait casting reel. In the case of a bait casting reel, the spool itself rotates, and that's what wraps line onto it, and that's what helps to retrieve your lure after casting it. So let's look at the bail arm again in a little bit more detail. This is the closed position of the bail arm. You can open the bail arm, and when you do that, that releases the line. So that's what you do when you cast. You open the bail arm, and that allows line to wrap off the reel or to be released from the reel when you cast your bait or your lure. After you finish the cast, then you close the bail arm, and then it's ready to wrap line onto the spool as you rotate it. So those are the first three parts: the foot, the handle, the bail arm. Now the spool itself sits here on a spinning reel. And as I mentioned, it doesn't rotate while you're retrieving lure or while you're casting, but it can rotate. And the way that it rotates is when you pull line like this. If you can hear that sound, that is the sound of the spool releasing line. And you use that function when you're fighting a fish. So let's say you've hooked a big fish and it's trying to pull line, and if it's very strong, it could break your line, or it could even break your rod, or pull your rod out of your hand if it's a very big fish. So the way that you avoid that is by allowing it to pull a line off your spool, and you control that with the drag mechanism. Now the drag mechanism is inside, so you can't see it from outside. Basically, it consists of several drag washers that push on the spool, and you can adjust the tightness of the drag washers by turning the drag adjustment knob, which is this part of the reel right here. When you turn that clockwise, the drag becomes harder, it becomes stronger, and it becomes harder to pull line off the spool. When you turn it counterclockwise, it gets loosened. And then it's easier to pull line off. And so you will have to adjust that to get it just right for your line strength and for the size of the fish that you're going to be catching. You can also adjust it after you've hooked a fish. So you have to be able to turn this with your left hand while you're fighting a fish in case you need to adjust it. Okay, so now let's talk about the ball bearings. So the ball bearings are inside of the reel. You won't be able to see them, but they are very important because the ball bearings are the parts of the reel that translate the rotation of the handle into the rotation of the bail. And every spinning reel has a gear ratio, which simply refers to the number of times that the bail arm rotates when you rotate the handle once. So in this case, this particular spinning reel, when I rotate the handle once, the bail arm rotates 5 times. So the gear ratio is 5:1. And the ball bearings are responsible for translating that motion of the handle into the motion of the bail arm. And as a rule of thumb, the more ball bearings you have, the smoother the action of the reel, which means it'll be easier to do and it won't be jerky, it won't get stuck, because the ball bearings ensure that that action is always very smoothly translated. And so you need to pay attention to the number of ball bearings and also to the gear ratio, which is the number of times that the bail arm rotates when you rotate the handle. So you can choose different spinning reels based on how many ball bearings they have and on the gear ratio and on the quality of their drag system. So the drag system is different with every single spinning reel, and you can choose them based on the quality of the drag system. So those are the main parts. There's another part on this spinning reel that I want to show you, which is the anti-reverse switch. So normally when I turn the handle, it only moves in one direction. If I try to reverse that movement, it doesn't work. However, when I move this switch over here, I can then also move it in reverse. I can remove it in both directions. So that's reverse gear on this spinning reel. Not every spinning reel has the reverse gear. And if they don't have the reverse gear, they don't have the anti-reverse switch. So the anti-reverse switch is simply the switch that you use when you want to stop the reverse gear. So you only want to move forward, which is the best way to set it when you're retrieving your lure, because if a fish strikes your lure and you want to set the hook, you don't want to have any backwards motion on there. So those are the main parts of a spinning reel. This is where I'm going to leave it for today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. We will answer within 24 hours. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.